Hey folks, MastercoX here. Now that we're a few episodes into Daima and you've been sitting on the fence waiting for an opportunity to binge watch some episodes and to catch up even faster, you can go and check out my reviews right here because I've done every single one. Oh my goodness. This changes everything we know. If you've been somebody who's been on the fence regarding Dragonball Daima, if you want some big lore drops regarding Z, as well as pretty much everything you could possibly want from Dragon Ball, this is probably one of the best episodes that we've seen in Dragon Ball media in quite a long time. I think it's probably right up there with episode 130 of Super. The animation was absolutely perfect. Everywhere. It had everything. It had Dragon Ball elements, it had GT elements, it had Z elements, it had, I think, a little bit of Super element. Basically, this is pretty much as authentic a product of the Dragon Ball overall circle of media that you can possibly get. I'm sorry if I'm trying to gush right now and yet also try and keep my cool, but it's quite early in the morning, and obviously I have a 9-month-old and I don't want to wake them up because we finally got their sleep schedule down to some sort of reasonable pattern, so I don't want to ruin it. But either way, this episode called Tamagami, simple, is pretty much everything you could possibly imagine in terms of trying to appeal to every single Dragon Ball fan possible. Heck, anybody who likes a good old JRPG, as I've been seeing in the comments, that it does remind people of Dragon Quest. Well, that would make sense because Toriyama had a hand in Dragon Quest in terms of the character designs and probably getting himself immersed in the experience. So that's a nice little call out to that other little bit of media that our creator of Dragon Ball was affiliated with. But either way, let me tell you about a lot of different things that happened within this episode that really made me so happy. Well, we've got to talk about the Tamagami No. 3 fight with Goku. And that animation was absolutely wonderful. Not only that, but its pacing was absolutely spot on in terms of not dragging out too long like typical Dragon Ball Z fights. Now, you might be expecting, well, how strong is a Tamagami exactly? Well, I've seen various accounts online, I think including Geekdom and Kanzenshu. I think the debate was going around that maybe the Tamagamis on average are akin in strength to Super Perfect Cell. So when Super Perfect Cell comes back after Goku tried to take him to King Kai's planet, he blew up and then he regenerated. So round about peak Super Saiyan 2 Gohan or something like that. And in terms of Goku's transformation, because yes, he does transform, I'm not quite sure which form it is because sometimes it looks almost like Super Saiyan 2 in kid form or just regular Super Saiyan. The bangs are the difference here. But either way, this is probably Super Saiyan Mastered or something like that. It may not make much difference for the story. It may not even matter, but the point is though, is that the strengths of these Tamagami are probably quite big and substantial, and no wonder nobody in the demon realm has actually been able to succeed against them. But you just got to look at the progression of this fight, and it's brilliant. It starts off with typical Dragon Ball close quarter martial arts. So this is for people who were getting sick and tired of just simple beam struggles or just having a couple of bits of punchy and then mostly it's just kind of aerial stuff from very, very far away. I mean, you do get that, but it starts off with the old school stuff. And when we do get to the beam struggles and the key stuff when Goku transforms, it just kicks up into high gear. It was beautiful. This is probably one of the most good-looking fights that I have seen from Dragon Ball in, well, years, basically. I know we've been waiting years for some really hardcore Dragon Ball media. Sometimes the Super Dragon Ball Heroes promotional anime has had some bangers, but it's fleeting, like a short sequence. Daima's really been getting into its stride. We're 8 episodes in, and yes, we've now got the first Dragon Ball from the Demon Realm. And you might be thinking, oh, well, that's taken a really long time, hasn't it? Well, you gotta remember what was said about the demon world, is that the third realm was the biggest. So once we get to the second demon realm, which we probably will by the end of the next episode, it probably will start to pick up pace because there won't be as much to explore. And according to Shin and the lore and everything that's been revolving around the Namekians and the Glins, well, they're pretty much gone. So there's probably not much to explore in terms of people in the second demon world. It mainly will be landscapes and then going on to fight the second Tamagami. Now, okay, the Tamagamis, they're exactly how I expected. So they're not just random golems who don't say anything except no, they actually have a personality and they can actually talk, and they're actually quite valiant, and that is really, really interesting. Is it a reflection on Neva, the old Namekian that stayed behind when the Namekians went to the other realm, the realm that we all know? It's really intriguing because they do like to fight fair, because after the fight, when it's been a really, really good battle and Goku didn't play any sneaky tactics to try and get the Dragon Ball, the Tamagami does say, I like you, you're a fair fighter. And you see him having a really good time. And then afterwards, he's trying to actually figure out, how do you do a Kamehameha? So he's practicing and training for the next person when the Dragon Balls come around and then it all starts again. And that was really, really cute and endearing. And it just goes to show that they don't just suddenly just turn back into stone or something like that when the Dragon Ball is no longer in their possession. And the fact that it doesn't have to be just simply, oh, Goku wins against the Beast and the Beast is destroyed. No, it's not as simple as that. It's actually the next phase, which is pure Toriyama, in that it's just one of the games of cups, and then it's a case of deception and making sure that the person who actually gets the Dragon Ball isn't just somebody who's strong, but also somebody who's quite smart and shrewd, and also privy to anybody trying to pull a fast one. So basically somebody who likes to be fair and also to make sure that they're not deceitful, because if they're deceitful, they would try and find some way to cheat. Well, Goku didn't cheat. He managed to find out that the Tamagami cheated, and then the Dragon Ball was over there. Now, I did not see that coming. When I saw the cups, I was thinking, oh, okay, it's going to be one of those things that, oh, I didn't expect him to toss the Dragon Ball at the last minute. Oh, nice, nice. Such a simple motif. They were able to find a really curious spin. I mean, of course, now looking back on it, it's quite obvious, but looking back on it instead of in the moment, I'm glad that my previous prediction of Vegeta stepping in at the last minute to try and help Goku in this fight didn't quite come to pass, like the opening actually alluded to. Or actually, when you think about it, it's Vegeta then going in to fight Goku in this mini form. So yet again, it's just Vegeta going like, I'm the best mini version of me.
Oh, come on, Vegeta, that's so cute.
And you know that's going to happen. They're going to bicker amongst themselves. But anyway, so that section of the episode, brilliant, spectacular. I love it. It was wonderful. It was something that I think was just one of the best moments in Dragon Ball lore in very, very long period of time. The next bit is actually in relationship to the overall story. So episode 8 is probably one of those episodes which pretty much ties everything together and gives you a really good idea as to where the series is going to go. So we now have a little bit more understanding of the overall plot and narrative. So we're not having to guess too much now. So I wouldn't be surprised if the length of this series is indeed about 24, 25, 26. So about 6 months or something like that in a typical anime cycle that isn't just 12 episodes. This just feels so tied into the Majin Buu saga. This feels like a natural continuation. You know what? I'm starting to think of Daima as less of its own series, but actually an inserted extra saga to Dragon Ball Z, because you just got to look at the overall style of this. Yes, of course, it's modern animation. It's digitally painted and composited and all that stuff. Things that weren't available or were in their very early infancy back in the mid-90s. But if you think about it this way and just say, oh, Daima is just the Demon World saga instead of just its own series, then it makes a whole lot more sense, because now it's totally interconnected. Because what we find out about Majin Buu is completely game-changing. In fact, it's so game-changing that Haverock and I, working on our December Christmas holiday miracle story, we had to go back in and completely change core fundamental parts of the story from what we found out in this episode. And trust me, have had a mini aneurysm, because all the work that was put into it now has to be rewritten and modified to accommodate all this new lore. Toriyama, as have said in our DMs, was, yeah, curse you! He was messing with us from beyond the grave. But don't worry, this is a really good plot point. So, okay, it indeed is turning out that Arensu is the main mastermind behind everything. And indeed, her goal is to become the Supreme Demon King and trying to push Goma out of that position. And now we know that the Dragon Balls, the Demon World Dragon Balls, are a backup plan. That in case this supposed plan that Arensu is literally cooking up with this mysterious witch called Maba. If that doesn't work out, she could just use the Demon World Dragon Balls to wish probably for Goma to be either put in a jar or something like that, or maybe turned into something else, like a kid, for example, so ironic punishment, or just to make sure that he is dead. Who's to say that the Demon World Dragon Balls have the caveat that, oh, you can't kill anybody with it? I wouldn't be surprised if this Demon World Dragon actually has the capability of ending somebody's life, because, well, the Demon World, sure, has proven to be not as hostile as we all thought, but I am pretty certain as well that it's not quite as rosy or honorable as Shenron. There are plenty of things to be thinking about the dragon, but that's many, many weeks from now. But right now, Maba is the person who created Majin Buu in the first place. Everything that we heard about Bibidi creating Buu, that was a complete and utter lie. That was Bibidi trying to make himself look cool, to say, I'm such a powerful wizard, I created Majin Buu. And Majin Buu created such havoc, not only in the sacred world of the Kai's realm, but also in the demon world. So who's to say that maybe the aftermath of Majin Buu's rampage throughout the demon world created these three worlds? So maybe it was all one world to begin with, but then it got completely smashed up into different realms, or some kind of means to protect people or something. This just makes me think that the demon world's been through a lot, hasn't it? And now we find out that the Glins, the reason why they left was because of Majin Buu, because he terrorized every single part of the realm. Maybe the heavenly beings took pity on them and saw what they could do and their potential, and that's why they proliferated throughout all of the other universes. And it does make me think that the demon world, this is the central world for all universes, because that's where the Glins went. They went to universe 1 through 12, all of them. And now it's making me think, Bibidi's plan was to destroy the Glind maybe because of their natural properties, their magical potential, because Irinsu working with Maba, this is sort of an ironic bit of revenge, because the last time she tried to do this, it didn't work. She was able to defeat that Buu. But now we find out that she was present on Earth and collected a sample of Buu, and that therefore has been put into this new Majin. Then she actually put some of her saliva in, so that means she can control it telepathically, which is something that was a very big problem with Majin Buu. As Maba said, that sure, this creation was a fluke that it was so powerful, yet at the same time, I could barely control it. You had to really wrangle it around the neck to try and get anything out of it, because Majin Buu, in the kid form, which is the pure form, is pure chaos. That's why when the Grand Supreme Kai was absorbed by Buu, it nullified most of that chaos and made it just quite satisfyingly satiable. Give it food and it's perfectly fine. So this is just really adding so much more intricacy. And again, it does feel like such a natural continuation. Think of Daima as a Z saga, and then it just fits so much better because there's a 10-year gap. Of course it would fit. Everything works now. It's just becoming a really natural part of the Dragon Ball Z experience. It's a Z saga. Think about it this way. I'm calling it a Dragon Ball Z saga now because this is how it's feeling. And now we're finding out more and more about how Buu came into existence and the true origins. And Maba's trying to pretend that I'm not the person who created Buu, because otherwise I would be ostracized within the demon world, because the demon world was destroyed by my actions, because I didn't mean to. I didn't expect it to be strong. Bibidi just told me to make it. And then Arisu knows the truth. And Arisu's personality, even though she's turning out to be the main mastermind, this is just, I mean, her mindset is so fascinating. For the fact that she's using this plan to use Goku and Glorio to get the Dragon Balls as a backup plan. This is not the main plan. This is not the Grand Master plan. And then I think this is her own home, or Maba's home, but she's so self-important that she has an inbuilt Shisha broom. So this is just adding more to the illusions of her being a witch. And she's just too important to walk. She just hovers on this broom, just everywhere. Doesn't she have working feet? It's really odd, but in a way quite hilarious. But also the atmosphere, the backgrounds, this is just so good. And the fact that we have these levitating realms, kind of like how Beerus's planet is, just like a levitating pyramid, it just makes me think that maybe Beerus's kind came from the demon world as well. Maybe just many years ago, they too escaped from the demon world into the other world. So there were no checks or balances. You could actually move between realms freely. So who's to say that a bunch of them went there as well? But yeah, the Glin, going to the Sacred World of the Kais eventually, and then that bit where the Supreme Kai, Shin, becomes the overall Supreme Kai of Universe 7, that must have been the remnants, maybe Bibidi's mission to destroy all Glins, him finding out that there was some Glins left on the Sacred World of the Kais, and using Majin Buu to make sure every single one was destroyed, and the Grand Supreme Kai had to sacrifice himself to ultimately make sure that Majin Buu was completely mollified, that he would no longer be a threat. Now that in of itself makes the entire situation of Shin all the more tragic, that this was a chase that probably lasted millions and millions of years, because Bibidi, who's to say how old he is, how old Majin Buu is? Majin Buu doesn't age, but just really adds to the intricacy of the Buu story. So we now have more and more pieces. It's just, this is just such a good story, and it's such a natural fit. This episode changes everything. This is the episode which you really need to get onto Daima, because if you want to understand more of the Buu saga and actually get to find about more of the details before about Babidi, about Shin, about where Majin Buu came from, this changes everything we've known for decades. This is such a fundamental episode. You really need to get onto Daima right now because it's so important to Dragon Ball Z, something that we hold dear. And it's all presented in such a beautiful package. Everything is crisp. Everything is lush. Everything is so immersive. Don't worry, Bulma, Piccolo, and Vegeta are there in the demon world. They will be catching up with Goku. They will probably be going to the second demon world with them. And then we can expect everyone to be together, and therefore we can have more hijinks. This is the core episode where we find out the plan. Put simply, she wants to become Arinsu, the Supreme Demon King, because this is something she's found out from Deborah, that Majin Buu is a thing, because Deborah probably said, "Oh, by the way, Arinsu, I'm off to Earth because we found the remnants of Majin Buu. Isn't that fascinating? Don't follow me, by the way."
Oh, Deborah, I won't. Oh, a secret magical genie? That's something that I've been trying to work on for many, many millennia? No, I'm not going to go there, especially since I can just travel freely. As your main scientician, no, I wouldn't do that. No. Oh, I've got to put the first ticket there.
And therefore we find out. And now Goma knows her plan. So who's to say what might happen? Might she be kickstarted in trying to incapacitate Goma or something like that? Or maybe try and pull a fast one? Because sure, he's quite powerful according to Maba, but at the same time, he's also incredibly impressionable and a little bit stupid. And maybe Degusu might try and find some way to try and deny it. Oh, I'm sure Arinsu wouldn't do that. I'm sure there was a good reason. Maybe Dabura told her to do it or something like that. But he's incredibly suspicious now. So I'm glad that she's just not gallivanting around freely with no sort of repercussion. There might be some consequences in the next episode where Goma is like, "Arinsu, explain this. Why are you making this margin?" "Oh, for you, my dear Goma, as a backup plan." And then he'll be told probably that this kid is after the Dragon Balls, and then he'll be distracted by, "What? Somebody's after the Dragon Balls? Goku? The person who just want he'll get the gibblies, and then Arinsu will be free to continue because, as far as Goma's concerned, she's doing it for him. Yeah. So as you can tell, I'm really excited about this episode, and you really need to continue. And if you have not been, go and watch this first episode review, and now you can watch all of the episodes on Crunchyroll or Netflix or what have you. You can have a fun few hours with this series. Please, I beg you, please put all of your prejudices and all of your nostalgia aside. This, if you like the Majin Buu saga, is the perfect next story